Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. Okay, so here's the deal. I was not going to be the kind of person that pulled Martin away from the holiday break early because of various things happening in the story. As a result, he's still not back and he's still enjoying his time, but there's still plenty of Destiny topics to discuss. So today, no script, and we're going to be doing, again, a somewhat lesser edit from myself as opposed to his superior skills. With all of that said, I hope that you guys do enjoy this topic because I think it's a really important one. Namely, it's going to be about Felwinter and Rasputin and talking about some of the weird and interesting comparison points between the two and about their relationship generally. Because you know what? It really does represent one of the most fascinating plot points that Felwinter's memories are now reintegrated into Rasputin. So yeah, we're going to explore all of that and talk a little bit more about it. However, first, a little quick refresher on Felwinter's story. I am not going to be exhaustive here. I'm also not going to go over who Rasputin is, because if you don't have some grasp of that and you're watching this video, this isn't the place to explain it. And also, who are you? You're fascinating. Please go and watch the opening stuff to the story, and please figure out who Rasputin is, because if you don't, you won't understand a damn thing. Anyway, point being, who is Felwinter? Felwinter is a notorious and shrewd Iron Lord warlock from the Dark Ages. He was one of the Iron Lords that was most notorious amongst their group. This is essentially highlighted by Felwinter's Lie, the shotgun that bears his name and also talks about some of its most notorious lore in some various attached bits and pieces, where Felwinter killed a warlord known as Citan with very little mercy. This is, in fact, an important note here, because for the longest time it was believed that this was Felwinter's lie. The lie was told to the other Iron Lords, and the lie was that Citan was unwilling to join the Iron Lords when, in reality, Felwinter would not give him a proper chance because he knew better. It's then one of these moments at which, as the lore behind Felwinter and the legend began to expand, especially after the days of D2, you would see new references to the Iron Lord popping up. Things like Winter's Guile, which stated that the Felwinter's Lie moment might actually have been something simpler, like him lying about his identity in the opening moments of his life so that he might survive. Then you take a look at later things, which imply that Felwinter had a relationship with Rasputin in some way, but also state that he was driven to discover the secrets of the Siva, and that maybe there was some lie being told in that respect. As it turns out, all of this would come to a head when Rasputin would destroy the Iron Lords in the Plague Lands. This was a moment at which Felwinter and the other Iron Lords were searching for a technology known as Siva. Siva, to go over it really briefly, is nanotechnology, but it's nanotechnology that can be directed by its controller to do whatever is desired. It can be directed by its controller to construct whole cities, or it can be directed to destroy things, as was discovered by the Iron Lords. Felwinter and all but 2 other Iron Lords were destroyed. Every single one of them. Hundreds entered the Plague Lands, it was sealed shut, only Saladin and Aphrodite survived. So this leads us to where we are today, with Felwinter dead, and yet now somehow kind of still alive, because Felwinter has been reintegrated into Rasputin. How is that the case, though? Felwinter, as it turns out, is a Siddhartha Golem. This is the truth behind Felwinter's Lie. Felwinter was originally a part of Rasputin. A Siddhartha Golem is just this. It's a bit of Warmind code that has been separated off into an exo frame. Rasputin used this so that he could essentially get a single-person perspective on humanity, and not so much spy on them, but really observe them and truly understand their culture. When this exoframe was resurrected as a guardian, this was a moment that greatly angered Rasputin, and when there was a chance to kill that guardian, it was something that Rasputin took. But a moment like this is something that Rasputin would come to regret. So, this is where our story has led us, to Felwinter's memories of Rasputin being reintegrated into the Warmind, and it leads us to a bunch of really interesting topics. First of all, there is a big comparison to be made here. Namely, a comparison between Clovis Bray I and Rasputin, and the fact that they have both killed their sons. Yeah. Odd, but let's explain it. Obviously, you guys just heard the small recap of the story. Rasputin used Siva to kill Fellwinter. Clovis Bray I, on the other hand, was a little bit more complicated. Clovis Bray I didn't directly kill his son at first. Clovis Bray II, Clovis Bray's son, was genetically engineered to have only his DNA. There was no biological mother to this child, there was only a biological father. This, in later life, would give Clovis Bray II a rare genetic disease that would slowly kill him, although the true details of that make it clear that saying it would kill him is just an oversimplification. I don't know how best to explain it, except for what is stated in Clovis Bray's journal. That's something I go over in a series of videos, which I'm going to go ahead and link down below in the description, and also at the end card if I can. The point being, it's a really gruesome way to die and involves being locked inside your own head, and eventually you are unable to sleep. It's really quite scary. More importantly than this though, Clovis Bray I would try to fix his son, and in the process would kill him in a rather gruesome manner. Not pleasant. However, whilst Clovis and Rasputin killed their sons, what happened after that point is what really diverges the two of them. Clovis Bray I would have no remorse for the death of his son, and it would be something that separated him from his grandchildren and put a lot of distance between them, with only the exception of Alton Bray, his one grandson, who is also noted as being really quite involved with a lot of Clovis Bray I's gnarlier stuff. I mean, when it comes to things like the K1 project, Alton Bray was the organizing officer of the entire thing that was not on site but was definitely overseeing it and responsible. So you can bet that Alton was really in deep with the rest of that. However, when it came to the three granddaughters, Wilhelmina, Elsie, and Anna, there was not much love to be found by Clovis Bray I. Rasputin, on the other hand, now in contemporary times, has an excellent relationship with the Bray children, and I think that this is important purely because of the fact that Rasputin has earned that relationship. Not only because of his relationship to Anna Bray in the purest senses, and his previous interactions in other timelines with Elsie, which means that she is far more amenable to him, even if he was not personally there to witness all of those moments, but also because of the simple fact that he feels regret. He regrets killing his son Fellwinter. And that is the major thing that differentiates Clovis Bray from Rasputin. Rasputin feels regret in a way that Clovis probably never could. Fellwinter now being a part of Rasputin also opens up a really interesting point here. You could view all of this as a simple transfer of data. You take maybe Rasputin and you simplify Rasputin into something such as 10 stacks of data for the sake of argument. You take Fellwinter, and Fellwinter was born by one stack of data, leaving Rasputin and becoming Fellwinter. Now Rasputin is being rebuilt and the Fellwinter stack has just been reintegrated. That's not the way that Rasputin sees it. Rasputin genuinely sees past metaphor and calls Fellwinter his son, the son of the Warmind, his own progeny. And this is something which is important because Fellwinter's memories have been reintegrated into the new Rasputin, which is, by its own admission, different from the old Rasputin. It has learned and improved and changed thanks to the experiences of the newly reintegrated subminds. And you know what's incredible about that? That means that in a very strange way, Fellwinter is Rasputin's father, which means that Rasputin, as in the new Rasputin, is also his own grandfather. Yeah, the whole family thing starts to really break down there, but think about it. Rasputin made Fellwinter. Fellwinter has been made into the new Rasputin. It's really kind of mind-boggling when you think about it, and yeah, thanks to Cowhat who gave me that thought, which kind of shriveled my brain and made me want to stop thinking. Because, Yeah, that's terrifying. By the way, there are other interesting tidbits that can be learned from all of this, which is quite simply that Felwinter's reintegration means that Rasputin has Felwinter's memories. That means that there are some really weird interactions waiting for him in the future. One of which he has already talked about a little bit, and one of which we should probably not touch on more if we don't want to have some really mind-bending experiences, is that Rasputin has a greater understanding of his own power because he remembers Felwinter's dying moments, in particular the memories of being killed by Rasputin's Siva. So Rasputin now knows what it's like to kill himself and to be killed by himself, which is scary, probably educational, very haunting, and man, I don't even know where to begin on that one. That's a really terrifying prospect. I think also it's worth remembering that the big takeaway from all of this is that Felwinter's contempt for Rasputin is something that Rasputin now retains and was able to empathize with and, well, understand. This is a moment which I think will change the Warmind, but it's also something worth remembering as a traumatic scar, something that it will have to adapt to. But Rasputin is not the only one who has to deal with the scars of these things. Felwinter's memories are something which doesn't just purely belong to him. The memory of Felwinter lives on in a few different people. I imagine that the Iron Lord Saladin Forge will most certainly want to have another conversation or two with the Warmind, and will potentially be in a place where retribution, or at very least questions, need to be looked into. I don't think that there's going to be a full-on fight between the last Iron Lord and Rasputin, but I do think there's going to be a moment at which that awkward interaction comes back around. And in a strange way, maybe there's some kinship there still to be found. And the reason I say that is purely because of the fact that with the memories of Felwinter residing in Rasputin now, technically you could look at it as Rasputin being a third surviving Iron Lord, perhaps joining Saladin and Aphrodite by technicality, if not in reality. But that's not the only person who Felwinter's memories are relevant to. Osiris is the other big part of all of this. As we learned thanks to this story in the previous week, Osiris was Felwinter's mentee, his apprentice of sorts, and I think there is perhaps an explanation here that shows us more of why Osiris behaves in the way that he does. Felwinter preached patience, but also seriously explored the ruins of the Golden Age. He may have practiced some degree of patience on his own, but he most definitely worked in with a sense of recklessness, and was willing to abandon all principles of safety when it came to exploring into the lore of the Warmind. I wonder if that attitude rubbed off on Osiris. If it did, it makes a whole lot of sense. Perhaps then it was a teaching relationship best defined by the phrase, "Do as I say, not as I do." There is also then the final question of whether the exoframe we see before us now, attached to the helm as a limbless automaton, is capable of having limbs attached. And if that is the case, could Rasputin die and be resurrected as a guardian once again? It's a really strange question, I grant, but it talks about the limits of personhood and asks us if we are truly worthy or not based on certain criteria. And also, it would result in some truly terrifying things if you think about a guardian and a Warmind combined. Whether that's possible or not, I don't know, but maybe Clovis's dream of some kind of apotheosis digitally is in fact possible. I don't know what's happening in the future, I don't know if that's the case, but all I do know is that a ghost decided that the Siddhartha Golem containing Felwinter was worthy of becoming a guardian, which means that some fragment of Rasputin is worthy of becoming a guardian too. Interesting to think about. Interesting all the more to contemplate because, well, no one is safe. As Lightfall approaches, we have many opportunities for characters to be in peril, especially if Rasputin faces up against the pyramid ships again. I don't think that it's any particular wonder as to how he will fare. He has failed before, and if he dies a second time, well, who knows what happens. Either way, that's been all from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, even if it is a little briefer and even if it's missing a bunch of different bits and pieces you'd expect for edits. If you did enjoy it, go ahead and hit the like button, and of course if you want more Destiny lore content, hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. Also, go ahead and let me know your own thoughts down below in the comments section. But as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me. And in the meantime, my name is Byf. Porodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.